to Gurgaon. Bumper-to-bumper traffic, the heat, the dust, and to top it up, tempers running high. That's India's Millennium City on the surface. But Gurgaon has one more story to tell. Of young entrepreneurs, an equally young workforce, running very young companies. It is the story of startups. Mushrooming in what is fast turning out to be the second largest incubator of startups after Bengaluru, India's second Silicon Valley.
Hi, I'm Ritesh Agarwal. I'm the founder and CEO of Oyo Rooms, India's largest branded network of hotels. Initially, I started a service where people could reserve rooms online. But during that period, I would literally wake up every day and stay in a new guest house, service apartment, small hotel every day. After staying in over 150 hotels, I realized that the real problem was not in the discovery of these hotels. The real problem was in the trust, predictability, and the assurance of the quality of these hotels. This is where I said, if this is the problem that needs to be solved in this country, we'll go out and solve it. So started with just one hotel, which I used to literally be the housekeeping guy, the sales guy, the engineer, CEO, everything of. I think early life was pretty eventful. I spent my childhood in the southern half of Orissa, which effectively is very Naxal infested, sizable folks below poverty line and so on. I got the opportunity to come to the northern part of the country. I was still in my teenage years, but because I had such a strong intent of doing things that were different, I continued trying to find different ways of learning and doing things that were new, and in one way or the other dabbled with entrepreneurship, and life's where it is now. The best schools just help you aid to understand that the probability of finding a bright guy is higher because the talent is just smarter, right? The filtration is there. But reality is, it doesn't really matter because I've actually continued the theory of a dropout essentially does some very, very bright things, which has been a global and in fact even Indian favorite for a long time. So I think it's sort of, I think the guys who have fancy MBA degrees, they have a lot to prove that having MBA degrees can also let you do bright ideas, not so much for dropouts at large. People who build a company is your team. You alone can't do everything. So it's extremely important that you spend a lot of time with your team and make sure that the direction of the company is in the right form. So start my day fairly early during the day. I used to be a very late night sleeper earlier, but I think over time I've matured myself there. Wake up early. Have started doing yoga of late. I think that's been super helpful. Get my breakfast done. Show up at office something like 9:30 in the morning. Spend the first couple of hours meeting the teams and just sort of making sure that I give enough time to every leadership team which is driving big items for the company. I spend time working and responding to the early emails that I'd have missed out or would have come to you in the day. And also surrounding myself with younger people, because as the company grows, you like surrounding yourself with mostly the leadership, but it's extremely important that you surround yourself with extremely young people who are just coming in, because they bring ideas and solutions which are path-breaking, which are not conventional, and that's the biggest risk that a company can take in this generation is not taking a risk. I think reality is, at a lot of levels, age is just a number, and when you open your mouth and have a real conversation, more often than not, people realize what you're really up to. The biggest hurdle was team, and I think overcoming that, initially I tried recruiting people by various ways, which was extremely tough. But I think one of the things that I learned was if you do what you're trying to do really well and put a lot of hard work around it, your energy will attract a lot of other people to come in and work with you. And that happened to us, that because we were working really, really hard to do the right thing, it was attracting a lot of people to come together and work with us.
Ritesh Agarwal started in 2012 with Oraval Stays Private Limited, a booking platform for the budget segment. A year down the line, he pivoted to Oyo Rooms. 1.5 years into this venture, his company can now boast of 2,700 standardized properties, 27,000 rooms, 135 plus cities of operation and 1,500 employees. Ritesh, a college dropout, may have found success early, but most startups struggle initially.
I am Gauri Singh and I'm the founder of the Maids Company.
Gauri is 38, a little older than the new early 20s age bracket for startup CEOs. Unlike Ritesh, she has academic degrees to display, a master's from the London School of Economics. But her initial years have been a struggle.
Well, we haven't managed to raise any funds till now. I think it's great that there's, compared to 5-10 years ago, there is a lot of money available. But even in the VC money, for every entrepreneur who gets $1 million, there are about 100 who haven't got it. So there is, you only hear of those success stories, you don't hear the struggles of those 100 startups that are not getting that funding.
Delhi NCR, but more so Gurgaon, gave her a suitable customer base. The Maids Company promises professional domestic help. It caters to both the client and the needs of the maids. It's taken 3 years for Gauri Singh's company to break even, and now it's time to scale up, and that's where technology comes into play. So very soon, they'll have an app, that's the Maids Company will have an app, which will be a one-stop shop for any of these maids who are placed with their employers to instantly hit the tab and look for any sort of advice on recipes, on cooking and on housekeeping. In fact, many believe the one single reason for the startup scene looking up in India is the increasing use of smartphones and steadily growing internet penetration.
It's going through the best time in terms of entrepreneurship and potential startups coming out of this country. And it's come because of multiple factors. One of them, the strongest factor, has been the smartphone growth. In this country, where very limited internet penetration was there in the past, the entire growth of internet penetration is not coming from broadbands or telephone connectivity or anything. It's all coming because of mobiles and smartphones becoming more and more accessible. For instance, we launched our mobile app only 2.5 months back. In 2.5 months, we have 3 million downloads and our business has grown to 65% on just the mobile.
But enablers come only after the very basics, idea and raw passion. Startups always have highly motivated individuals. They show passion and zeal to convert ideas into reality, no matter how small their means. This is one of the places where ideas of the young take shape. Defined as the startup hub, 91 Springboard in Gurgaon houses 82 startups at present and has a capacity of 285 startups. So clearly, this place is abuzz with energy. So how was 91 Springboard created? Yes, this too is a startup to help other startups.
I think the best ideas always come from personal experience. So I think about 2007 I started my first startup. I had the support of my father. I worked out of his office, used his conference room, used his contacts, his money, his accountant, and started my first business. I failed multiple times thereafter, tried again and again until I finally succeeded. I figured if we could provide this sort of a petri dish and experimental environment to many, many others, it could be great for Indian environment, Indian startups, Indian entrepreneurs. So that was my inspiration.
But it is not just infrastructure that is needed. Networking and capital is equally important. 91 Springboard organizes events for meetings between potential investors and people with ideas.
So I've seen it over the last 7 or 8 years expand, develop, and I can say now is the best time to get money for an early stage company, between angel investors, between VCs, between government sources of funding, between debt sources of funding. There has never been this much opportunity.
So where does the government come in?
We go to Singapore and we come back and we see the facilities which government provides in Singapore or US or even Israel is something which Indian government has yet to waken up, right? It's not about funds. It's not just about giving SOPs. It's about the basic infrastructure which is lacking out.
I think the government needs to focus on good governance. For the entrepreneur, where there is a lack of good governance, there end up being a lot of hidden costs. So for example, if we don't have safety in our public areas, we have to create our own systems, like a shuttle system that we had to buy a van, hire a driver, make sure that the women are going from one point to the next safely. There's no electricity. 6 to 7 hour power cuts, which means we have to generate our own electricity through generators and stuff.
A co-working space is welcomed by startups. For 2 to 3 member startups, this idea is ideal for more reasons than one.
Any specific problem, you can just shout out and people are always there to help you out.
Actually, one of the biggest startups over here in terms of size. We are about 16 currently, but we still don't want to move out because it's so helpful. We found our CA through this place.
Finding the right talent? Does that come easily in a country of 1.2 billion people? We discover how the talent pool still remains pretty small for startups to choose from. It certainly is boom time for startups in India. India's top e-commerce company Flipkart is preparing for an initial public offering, IPO. Reports suggest its valuation is around $15.2 billion, a number not many traditional business houses can match. What has really prompted this boom?
The first is, I think, by 2011-12, the country had seen 2 high-profile IPOs in the online space. Deep had just IPO'd Make My Trip, and Sanjeev had IPO'd Naukri, and Just Dial came a little bit later. But so the biggest thing that unpacks entrepreneurship is role models. They're role models, right? So all of a sudden, India had role models.
Meet Shuchi Mukherjee and Prashant Malik, both back from abroad to set up shop, rather e-shop in India. Shuchi's stint at eBay comes in handy, and Prashant gets with him some interesting experience at Silicon Valley, having worked with Facebook before heading back home.
We are also all about user-generated content. So everything that the user generates needs to be consumed by all the users, very similar to the content that is created on Facebook and is consumed by other users.
The duo run LimeRoad.com, an e-commerce enterprise that curates looks for women and their homes. It allows you to create your own look on a virtual scrapbook using products from 1,500 small vendors on its site and share it with others. Despite sounding similar to Myntra and Jabong, their startup has been rated one of the coolest startups this year by Business Today. They also tell us why, despite all the obvious hurdles, many are now choosing Gurgaon as their startup destination.
I think there's a very large mass, or increasingly large mass, of folks who, for whom Delhi NCR was home, and they wanted to build businesses out of there. If you think about Prashant and me, we would love nothing more than, of course, LimeRoad to be successful, but also for Delhi and NCR to become equivalent of a Silicon Valley for India. There is one Silicon Valley for 350 million Americans. There needs to be 3 Silicon Valleys for a billion to Indians.
And some more like Prashant have given up their pretty comfortable life in San Jose and decided to move to India. This trend giving an indication of a startup space being created in the country. Shop Clues is a story of three friends who moved from the Silicon Valley to India in 2011 to start up, knowing fully well the challenges that they will face in a place like India, in a place like Gurgaon. But that's what startups are all about, being able to take the risk. Full of life, energy and how the younger generation would describe the chilled out trio of Sandeep Agarwal, Radhika Agarwal and Sanjay Sethi started the horizontal online marketplace Shop Clues in 2011. Shop Clues simply targeted the vacant space of no online representation of actual traders of India.
All three of us are based in the Silicon Valley, and in 2011, Sandeep actually came up with the idea of Shop Clues. We wanted to create a marketplace to bring small and medium enterprises online to be able to target the middle class India. That was the concept. We moved here in September 2011 and the site went live in 2012. Since then, we have about 250,000 merchants on the platform now. About 12 million customers have interacted with the platform, and I think safe to say that we own about 10% of the entire e-commerce market in the country right now.
Despite falling in almost the same category as Flipkart and Snapdeal, they stand out as they dabble in unstructured categories, which means some stuff that they have would not be branded, or that they will also carry smaller brands, basically targeting the tier 2 and 3 cities. The venture has seen a steady rise over the last couple of years, but the founder talks about a unique hurdle they have faced in India.
What makes you uniquely qualified to solve this problem, right? Lot of people just come to me and they say that, look, I'm tired of doing my day job, I want to make more money, hence I'm doing this. No, I think first you should be very obsessive. Second is you should be solving something which is big addressable. Third is you should be uniquely qualified. Any of your upbringing, your education or prior experience or the way you see the world should make you uniquely qualified to solve that problem.
With the experience they have, what advice would they have for the government to allow startups to flourish in India?
Yeah, tax holiday.
Tax holiday.
I think also governance, small governments remove license Raj. We are doing legitimate business, encourage us.
So while these people with big ideas are driven by passion, what about those who choose to believe in them? More often than not, a startup is not a pretty corner like this to be in. It is full of challenges and hurdles. But it is for people who have the ability to take the risk, who are ambitious and who believe in what they dream.
Here, I think I've been very, very lucky. So I've worked on so many different pieces. In fact, I joke around, I feel like I've had 5 jobs in a year's time.
LimeRoad seemed to be a very exciting, nice startup where, there was a lot of different opportunities. So that's where I switched to LimeRoad.
Idea or the concept of building India's first fashion community was so exciting that I couldn't resist it. And today that's exactly what we've done.
So I have previously worked in a traditional setup, and working with a startup is a completely different experience from the point of view of juggling between various roles.
I had worked in MNCs for 10 years in technology and internet space before I decided to join a startup. Working at a startup is great. You get to see what you're creating and you get to see it so closely. I think that's the biggest kick. Besides the immense learning that you get by working on almost everything that you can envision within a business.
So broadly, that is what the startup scene looks like in India. Funding has gone up for even average size deals. Venture capitalists are willing to go higher on funding. Campus recruitments for young talent by startups is going up. And finally, valuations seem to be going through the roof. Many advise caution as the startup picture seems a tad too rosy to be real. But for now, the young entrepreneurs are making the most of the current conducive ecosystem.
I think entrepreneurship is all about risk-taking and your appetite for risk. What it means is, I think you can't be a successful entrepreneur unless you're able to take a certain amount of risk.
A never say die attitude, and probably giving whatever it takes to make that conviction to a dream and a reality.
Have the courage to quit your support system, go down this route not knowing where the next paycheck is going to come from. I think that's courage.
See, conviction is a real test of your own faith and beliefs, right? As an entrepreneur, I think that's the single biggest thing you underwrite when you decide to do something.
Fun for me is working very hard and feeling accomplished after I've done it.
The biggest risk that a company can take in this generation is not taking a risk.
Life is a good day spent at work, working very hard, accomplishing things and going home to the family.